Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Gradcracker webinar with AtkinsRéalis. So I'd first like to introduce to you the Gradcracker members of the panel. My name is Carla, I'm a director at Gradcracker, and I have worked with AtkinsRéalis for a number of years. They advertise their degree apprenticeships, placements and internships and graduate opportunities on Gradcracker, which are all now live. Sophie?
Thank you, Carla. Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie, also a director here at Gradcracker, and my role is really similar to Carla's in that I look after a lot of the employers who advertise with us, and I'll be helping Carla out on the webinar today.
Thank you, Soph. So during the webinar, our aim is to find out a little bit more about AtkinsRéalis. We'll talk about who they are, what they do, and also what opportunities you, our STEM students, can apply to this year on Gradcracker. Starting with our contact Rachel, who's also from Hull, and I'm very excited about that. From the early careers team, we'll have an introduction to the business and also their opportunities. We will then speak to the graduates who all found their roles on Gradcracker about what life is like for them, what projects they have worked on, if they're involved in any networking groups, what training and development they have received, and also their future plans. We will then end the webinar by discussing the recruitment process and giving you an idea of how you can be successful. During this part of the webinar, the graduates will also give you an insight about how they use Gradcracker to apply to AtkinsRéalis and also how they've had a successful career so far. Now, hopefully you've attended some of the webinars that we've done so far this season, and so you will know that we've got a new feature that you can submit your questions for us to ask the panel. Now, I know we're nearing December now, but we do have a couple more webinars left, and we've got webinars into the new year as well. So make sure you go onto the webinar page on Gradcracker and submit your questions for the webinars that are coming up. And also a big thank you from me and Soph and the Gradcracker team for those who've already submitted your questions for this webinar, and we will scatter those throughout the webinar. So make sure you keep listening, keep watching, to see if your question is asked. So let's get started and meet AtkinsRéalis. So Rachel, as always, lovely to see you. Rachel will be giving you all an insight into AtkinsRéalis, the roles which are currently live on the hub, like I've just mentioned, and also the recruitment process. We are also joined by graduates Chikume, Isaac and Jamie, who we're speaking to very shortly. So for now, Rachel, tell everybody about AtkinsRéalis.
Hi everyone. So we're a global engineering and project management consultancy. We create sustainable solutions to connect people, data and technology to transform the world's infrastructure and energy systems. We've got a global team of consultants, designers, engineers and project management working on a variety of projects across a lot of different sectors, including transportation, defence, nuclear, buildings and infrastructure and more. And we're really passionate about creating a diverse and inclusive environment in which our employees can thrive.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Rachel. And I've mentioned a couple of times now that your roles are currently live on Gradcracker. So just to throw out the stats, stat time, your degree apprenticeships are open. You've got 23 open opportunities, but obviously open to multiple candidates, all with a deadline of the 20th of February. So students who are watching, who are interested in degree apprenticeships, you do have a few more months to apply to those. And you've also got your placements open, which are a mix of year long and summer, and your graduates which are open, all with a deadline of the 5th of December. So after this webinar, students, you need to go and get your applications in because it's soon going to be the 5th of December. But Rachel, give everybody a bit of a flavour about what's available for the students watching this year.
Yeah, so we've got, as Carla said, we've got quite an extensive list of roles available. I won't list them all because I'll be here a little while, but on the grad side, obviously a range of engineering roles as you'd expect. So we've got airport planning and engineering, chemical and process engineering, civil and structural engineering, electrical, environmental, ground engineering. We've also got nuclear safety roles. We've got project management, transport planning. So a real kind of broad range of roles within that kind of engineering and project management sphere. We've got roles across our different business areas, so infrastructure, transportation, nuclear and power, and project and programme services all have roles live at the moment. In terms of locations, again, I mean, we're obviously a massive company, so I won't list every office, but London, Bristol, Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Epsom, Whitehaven, Sheffield, York, So lots of different locations. So hopefully somewhere to suit everybody on the call today.
Yeah, absolutely. There is definitely. I would hazard a guess that there's something for everybody to apply for.
But not Hull, unfortunately. But
not Hull. Boo!
maybe
Come
one
on,
day.
Atkins. Get yourselves to Hull, love. Well done. Rachel's not based in Hull at the moment. That's why she can say that she's based in Birmingham. So thank you for that introduction, Rachel. And also, students who are watching might want to know about the roles. Are they hybrid, or would you be based in a specific office?
Yeah, so as a general rule of thumb, we operate kind of 50% office-based, 50% working from home model. But what I would say, it's completely dependent on project needs, client needs, meetings, and all of that. So we'd ask any kind of new prospective employee to make sure you've talked to your line manager to know what the expectations around any role is. But yeah, just to give you a general flavour, we do sort of spend 50% of time at home and 50% in the office.
Perfect, lovely. Thank you very much, Rachel. And it's also worth noting now, as in this part of the webinar, that you can only apply for one opportunity. So please make sure you thoroughly research the roles, read the job descriptions, listen to everybody's journeys and that they've taken as part of this webinar, and also look on the hub. There's lots and lots of information on there about the specific roles, and there's people profiles on there as well, just to make sure that you only apply to the role which best aligns to you and your values and your aspirations. So we'll be back to Rachel towards the end of the webinar, where Rachel will be discussing the recruitment process and giving you lots and lots of hints and tips of how you can be successful. But now I'm going to hand over to Soph, who will meet the rest of the panel.
Thank you very much, Carla, and thank you for the introduction, Rachel. Okay, Chakume, I'm going to start with you. So would you be able to give our audience an introduction to yourself, please?
Yeah, sure, that's fine. Hi, everyone. My name is Chukwuma, and I am a graduate data scientist at AtkinsRéalis. So prior to joining AtkinsRéalis, I did my master's program at Imperial College London. There, I studied applied computational science and engineering. It had a component of data science, and that was the reason why I chose the course in the first place. But before this, I did my undergrad in civil engineering at Covenant University. So you will notice that I do have a bit of a transition there. But I joined AtkinsRéalis July last year, so it's been around 1 year, 5 months here so far. I did get a question from Samina at Birmingham City University, and the question is basically, as a data scientist, what software do I use, and did I have any experience of this prior to joining AtkinsRéalis? So at my current role, I mostly use the Python programming language on Microsoft Azure platform. I had used Python, PyTorch, and TensorFlow prior to joining AtkinsRéalis, but I would say that I had no prior experience of Microsoft Azure, so I had to learn on the job, and I had to learn quite a number of things as well on the job. And just to add that, we don't necessarily expect you to know everything, but having like some foundational knowledge would be really beneficial. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So you joined around a year ago. Was that right? Yep. So yeah. What sort of work have you been involved in as a data scientist at AtkinsRéalis so far in your career?
So I've been on a number of projects, both internal AtkinsRéalis projects and all those that are more client facing. One of the internal projects that I was on is called like Ask Atkins, and basically the aim of the project was to leverage legacy AtkinsRéalis data to help answer repetitive and time-consuming questions that systems engineers usually ask in their projects. So some of the questions that they could ask was, maybe they are putting together a bid, or whilst they're on a project, they want to ask questions that they'll always ask. So it was good to have like a chatbot that could actually help them with that. We tried, for that project, we had some like LLM models, open source LLM models out there, such as Meta's Llama. I don't know if anybody has heard about it, and some other open source LLMs. And we use it to create a chatbot on Google Colab, basically. So I already knew a little bit about Google Colab, but tweaking the LLM purpose was very useful. Another project. Yep.
Oh, go on, sorry.
Another project that I'm currently on is more data analytics facing and is more client facing as well, which I enjoy. So I'm basically doing a lot of stakeholder management, project management, task planning, as well as, of course, being a data analyst. So it gives me a bit of flavor of almost everything. That's really, but one of the courses that was really beneficial for kind of this role is called the Core Consulting Skills course. Now, it's an intense 4-day workshop where every day you're learning how to be like a better consultant. It is a compulsory course for graduates in the scheme, so definitely something to look forward to, because at AtkinsRéalis, we do have like courses every year to just kind of help you grow and expand as a consultant.
Amazing. That sounds like you've achieved so much in just a year, and 2 really, really interesting projects. I mean, going back through historical data and making and kind of understanding what were common issues coming up, and then making that accessible to everybody, you know, is something that's going to be useful day on day on day, as you mentioned. So some really interesting stuff just in that kind of first year. I'll probably come back to you in a little while just to delve a little bit deeper into some of those projects and maybe kind of expand on the training and development that you've undertook so far. But that was a really great introduction to what you've been doing at AtkinsRéalis so far. So thank you very much for that. Jamie, I'm going to come over to you now to find out a little bit more about you. So could you give our audience an introduction to who you are and where you went to university and what you studied and things like that?
Of course, yeah. So my name's Jamie. I joined AtkinsRéalis in September of 2023. I've been in the company just over a year now, working as a graduate geotechnical engineer. Before this, I graduated from the University of Dundee with a master's degree in civil engineering. I achieved the 2-1 classification. And following this, I began my application to Atkins, as it was called at the time, through Gradcracker. And throughout the session, you know, I'll give some insight into, you know, what life at the company is like and how I found that application process through Gradcracker extremely effective. In terms of what I studied, so yeah, I've studied civil engineering. It was a 5-year course. I knew going into university that I would choose some form of engineering, as my academic strengths were in subjects such as mathematics and physics. I was pretty much hopeless at anything else at the time. I chose to apply for the master's course. This was highly beneficial for anyone that's wishing to work towards chartership in their career. In my current role at AtkinsRéalis, I receive guidance and direction from senior engineers while developing my competence through structured work assignments, so using common sense judgment, while working proactively towards chartership with the ICE, which is my chosen institution. I'm expected to apply existing procedures to solve standard problems, analyse information, and basically follow best practice to make some judgments. And my responsibilities today include things like drafting technical reports, presenting work through reports and meetings, ensuring tasks are completed on time and within budget, and work with standardised to achieve objectives, meet deadlines, and continuously upscale in digital technology. I also participate in trainings, meetings to adhere into the company's core values of safety, innovation, collaboration, and integrity.
Great, thank you, Jamie. So going back a step, you did a 5-year degree. So did that include a year in industry as part of it?
No, so it was split into 2 courses technically. The first 4 years was to achieve our bachelor's degree, and the 5th year was to gain the master's qualification. It wasn't industry based, but it involved a multidisciplinary project we'd done, which actually gave us the opportunity to work with senior engineers from companies across the industry, and they came in and basically helped with our development and design process. The project specifically for us was a conceptual esports arena, which was to be constructed in the city of Dundee. And that involved routine meetings, presentations with people acting as clients, that sort of thing. So I would say that it gave us an insight into what we could expect in the industry.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Jamie. So what we'll do is we'll come back to you in a little while to find out about some of the specific projects that you've worked on. But thank you for giving us kind of an introduction to your day-to-day life. So Isaac, I'm going to come over to... Oh, hang on. Sorry, Carla, you had a question, didn't you?
Again, Sophie, yes, we've got questions as part of these webinars. We're nearly at the end of this season and you're just kind of getting used
I
to
know,
it.
I'm sorry, I was just so focused on what I was doing next, I forgot the little red paragraph that you'd put in for me.
People who are watching, we do have these itineraries and the questions are in bright red. And so them, I don't know how. So yes, I would like to say thank you to Samina. I know Chukwume, you answered Samina's question from Birmingham City University. So thank you for submitting that question, Samina. And yes, Jamie, I've got a question for you. So as a graduate engineer, what in particular made AtkinsRéalis stand out for you? And that's from Elle at the University of Portsmouth.
So for me, a big focus of my course was sustainable design.
Yeah.
And Atkins, I believe, are a front runner for this. I think the main thing I considered when looking for a company to work for was I needed to be somewhere where I felt as though my values aligned with the business. And part of my application process or pre-application process was to review the values for companies I'd been taught through the course. So we'd been given introductions to the main leaders in sustainable design, environment protection, that sort of thing. And I felt as though AtkinsRéalis values aligned with mine significantly. And they represented one of the main reasons why I wanted to become a civil engineer, which was to work on sustainable design and be able to continue to construct and make lives people better while having a focus on the environment. And I would say they are the main reasons, the main things I looked for when deciding what company was best for me.
Yeah, lovely, perfect. Thank you very much, Jamie. And we've just mentioned as well that the values are on the hub on Gradcracker. So if you go and have a look at those before you put your application, they're ready. Thank you, Jamie. Back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Carla. Yeah, I think that's a really good point and something that we discuss quite often on these webinars, isn't it, Carla, about really understanding the values of the company and making sure that your values align with that. And I think Jamie's a perfect example of that. So thank you very much. Isaac, I'm going to say hello to you now. So would you be able to give our audience an introduction to who you are and what you studied?
Thank you, Sophie. So yeah, my name is Isaac Brown. I'm currently a graduate information manager within the AtkinsRéalis Transportation Business Unit. I've currently been here for 1 year, 2 months, shockingly. Time, as they say, time flies when you're having fun, isn't it? So I've been here for 1 year, 2 months. Prior to this, I studied in Robert Gordon University. One of the reasons I studied in Robert Gordon University, I'll put that in 3 things. One, the location, being the energy capital of Europe. I was someone that was always fascinated with the energy industry, working in ExxonMobil before coming to do my master's in Robert Gordon University. And 2 is their strong industry link still to the energy industry. They are very up and up about renewables and sustainability. So it was quite intriguing to get into the institution. And last, which I think was one of the most important things, was their high graduate employability percentage. So if I can remember correctly, it was around 95%. Which was, I was like, okay, I need to test that, and I need to test that and see. I need to test that and see. So, and going that's where I now found a course through doing research in the university, IT for the energy industry, and I was quite lucky, I would say, because they just redefined the course from IT for the oil and gas industry to IT for the energy industry, incorporating renewable energy into the model. So I was like, isn't this destiny? Isn't this destiny? So that got me going into that, studying my master's in IT for the energy industry. Prior to that, I studied computer engineering in North American University, and coming into AtkinsRéalis, one of the exciting thing again coming into the role was I now found out that is the first ever grad scheme for information management they were doing. And as they say, nothing is stronger than the foundation of a house or building. So it gave me another sense of meaning to want to get involved in things, to create a pathway for the next set of people coming into the grad scheme. And it's been exciting within the first 1 year, 2 months. I've been involved. I've been in a project, luckily resourced into for almost a year now. A high-risk project that gets me communicating with multidisciplinary teams and stakeholders. And within AtkinsRéalis, I've been involved in some kind of different initiatives, like the Make It Brilliant campaign through Instagram handles, LinkedIn. I've also been involved in the Next Future Leader kind of group that are working in initiative within the company. It's called the Next Gen Senior Leadership Team, and it was quite I was quite happy to be picked up from or be nominated from by our practice director as someone to be involved with that. So it only shows how you can go out from normal project externally to internal and improve the business within, because we're working on things like team agility, to be able to make you know that it is not just about your technical skills or about what you bring into the business, but what's your ability to learn new skills, to be agile and work in a sense of difficult times. As we all know, the only thing constant in this whole life is change. So you should be able to be adaptable. And the next is inclusive design, making the design of our drawings, our buildings, whatever we do, more inclusive to everyone. So it's as I said, it's been exciting for the first 1 year and 2 months. And the most intriguing thing is I had initially not done anything relating to 3D engineering designs or information management. So we also give testament to back to my school, Robert Gordon University, which one of the modules was data management, which was quite robust enough to understand the essence of data validation, keeping according to standards and making sure you are detail oriented. So in a nutshell, in a year and 2 months, that's been me.
There's so many things you said there that I would think I want to explore more of, but I think we could be there all day. So I'm going to just pick out a couple of things that you mentioned, just to expand on right now, and then I think we'll come back to a couple of points a little bit later on as well. Because you mentioned that this was the first year that Atkins had taken on the Graduate Information Management graduate scheme. So could you just tell us a little bit more about what that graduate scheme entails?
It's basically almost similar to graduate schemes, because so as it's an information management scheme, it's coming in, and one of the key things AtkinsRéalis does, or a model they use, is the 70-20-10 model, which once you come in, you learn more getting your hands on a project. So learning as you go. So that's been the key thing within the grad scheme, and one thing that's key about that of the grad scheme is you're not afraid to make mistakes. Speaking for me personally, I feel that has given the ground for not to be afraid to make mistakes. And being the first set of the grad information information management grad scheme, it gives a sense of more confidence to be able to ask questions, be able to try new things, and just be able to say yes when needed to things. So that's, to me personally, that has been a very integral part of the grad scheme. It being the first of its kind, I think you have more freedom to explore your new skills and qualities at this starting stage.
Amazing. And you mentioned that as part of the grad scheme, so for the last year, you've been working on kind of one main project in the highways industry, I believe you mentioned. Could you tell us a little bit more about, what your involvement in that project has been?
So it's basically, as an information manager, we basically call it better information management. So most of the things that is troubling the, would I say, a default or defect within the construction industry is being able to have organized and coherent data where everyone from different teams have access to that data. So being put in form of BIM in a common data environment, you are in charge of looking after the common data environment, making sure the teams are having the right information, and making sure that they have access, like access control, naming convention, making sure things are according to standards. So that requires a good communication or collaboration within multidisciplinary teams. You can have you can have an engineer that can just come and speaking to you in technical terms. Even if half of it is flying over your head, you should be able to you should be able to pick out the integral things and the key things that are very vital within you people's scope that you're trying to deliver of the information. So before anything is sent out to the clients or the stakeholders, we are the last form of data validation. Do we have this? Is this according to standard? Do we have the right naming convention? Does it have the right naming or saved in the right folders? Because these are things that are picked up during audit. So it's actually, that's one of the things that has made me actually upskill, or would I say better my understanding, because that's the first thing. Once you get a mail and the person just tells you what he wants to tell you, you have to be able to step back and understand what the person is saying. Then you should know, as I always say, once you're dealing with information, you should always have what the use of that information is in the back of your mind. So just on a nutshell, that's what I do with around the project.
Wow, so you're getting involved in lots and lots of different things. You're speaking to so many different types of people. You're having to understand different disciplines, different technologies. So really, really varied. So that's really interesting. And again, all in a year.
All in a year.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Isaac. I think I'm going to come back to you to talk in a little while a bit more about some of those other activities that you've been involved in from, like the leadership teams and things like that. So thank you very much for that introduction, though. Chukwume, I'm going to come back to you at this point. You gave us a really good introduction to some of the projects that you've been involved in so far and some of the work that you've been doing. But I'd like to touch upon a little bit of the training and development that you've received, because you mentioned, some of the different technologies and, some of them you'd had experience with, some of them you hadn't. How do you kind of find the time to kind of upskill yourself, as Isaac was saying, and how do you learn these new technologies alongside your kind of day job?
Yeah, so like Isaac mentioned, we have like the 70-20-10 rule. So majority of the learning I will do, or majority of our graduates will do, will be on the job. So that's on a project, which helps inform your learning. So for instance, I've been in a data analytics project, which means that I'm trying to learn Power BI, right? So that means that when I'm doing something for the client, I'm trying to then go back to learn what I'm meant to be doing, how I'm meant to be doing it. So there's like a lot of learning on the job. Then we have like the compulsory learning that we graduates have, plus any technical learning you want to undertake. So I believe we have a certain percentage of our time that we can dedicate to any kind of learning or training we want to do. So a lot of people, what I do sometimes is on Thursday or Friday, there's like a 1 hour, 2 hour slot that I just dedicate to, let's say, DataCamp training or any other certification I would love to do and learn. That's another part of it. And then the 10% is really shadowing somebody in your team. So I remember I've done a bit of shadowing with someone in my team. He's like a machine learning engineer. So what I do is not really machine learning. So in order to learn what machine learning is and how to be like a machine learning engineer, I shadow someone else. So that's also like the 10%. So that's really like the different ways of like learning as a graduate in AtkinsRéalis.
Amazing. And that's, I think, is a really important point to make, that, you're given access to a lot of training development opportunities, but majority of what you're going to learn is by doing, is when you're actually doing a project, doing a job, and you've got the support of your peers around you and senior people within the business to help you do that. And then you also have the opportunity to do formal learning opportunities, as well as, like you said, shadowing. It's a really good mix of how to gain new skills. But yeah, the majority of it will be on the job. So thank you very much for giving us that overview. Jamie, I'm going to come back to you here, because again, you gave us a really great introduction as to what your role entails. But I wondered if you could kind of touch upon some of the key projects or key work that you've been involved in so far.
Yeah, no problem. So I would say upon joining, I've worked on a variety of projects at AtkinsRéalis, ranging from large scale to small scale initiatives. An example I'd like to give is my project work on the A83 Access to Argyll and Butte project. So it's a project which focuses on improving the resilience and safety of the A83 corridor, particularly addressing landslip risks at the Rest and Be Thankful area. My contributions included reviewing inspection reports and as-built drawings, basically to try and establish model specifics and current condition of the temporary fencing measures that were in place at the site at the time. I've also supported drone surveys, which is some early site work I got, which basically carried out to capture high-resolution images of the site in an attempt to capture any changes, signs of soil and rock deterioration, instability, etc. I've also done some work on Sizewell C, which is a development of a new nuclear power station in Suffolk. And this has been more aimed at providing low carbon energy to meet future energy demands. It's involved me reviewing historical ground investigation data, creating a depth study to establish areas, ground conditions, and to propose future GI requirements. I would say that, when working on projects, I would say life at AtkinsRéalis is quite dynamic and collaborative. The role involves weekly project calls to discuss current work progress, team meetings for knowledge sharing, and even attending presentations, usually during lunch breaks, to stay up to date on industry advancements and how we can, implement these things in our own work. I work closely with colleagues across the company on various projects and in different disciplines. And yeah, routinely leverage expertise in different disciplines, especially. it involves a manner of things. Drafting technical reports was something I got involved with quite early. There's times where sometimes I'm requested to just compile an email to a client just to give someone insight into the grim conditions at an area of interest. One project in particular, something that I've been quite happy to work on, is defence-related work. This has involved me being a key reviewer of documents which have been produced by other consulting company. I think this project I want to highlight because it's encompassed all the main things I think it takes to satisfy the requirements for the role I'm in, which includes clarification of engineering calculations, use of technology, so different softwares, which I hadn't used prior. It also gave me a chance to, for the first time, be involved in a client presentation where I was required to basically present my findings, what I'd found from the documents I'd reviewed, what my own interpretation of the current results were, and to also give my opinion, my engineering judgment on the situation at hand and what we think should be done about it. I would also like to say, though, because I think it's an important part of my role in general, I do a lot of stuff outside the project work. So I am one of the representatives for the Indra office, which basically means I'm required to participate in bi-weekly meetings to support tasks such as planning our annual Grimmed Engineering and Tunlin Academy field trip, as well as also tracking chartership progress of our colleagues in an attempt to understand how they feel about the process and how we can improve that. And that gives a little bit of insight into the kind of contributions required as a rep and throughout my project work in general. And I think all these things kind of ensure a continuous growth both professionally and personally. Plenty of opportunities for extracurricular activities and continuously working towards getting at the key of what our job is, which is to provide clients with an optimized and realistic solution to design projects. And I would say that that is what I've been involved with the project so far.
When do you sleep, Jamie? No,
in the office.
All jokes aside. No, it's a lot that you've just thrown at us there in terms of what you've been involved in the last year, both from project work to this kind of softer skills to the social side of things, and just so many different things that you've had the opportunity to be involved in so very early on in your career. So thank you very much for kind of giving our audience such a great overview of all the things they can get involved in just in one part of the business. So really appreciate that, Jamie. Thank you. Isaac, I'm going to come back to you now to kind of touch upon some of the points that you made, and kind of leads on quite nicely for what Jamie was just talking about then, things outside of the day job. And you kind of mentioned this when you gave us your introduction about some of the additional things that you've been involved in. You mentioned like the next gen leadership team and things like that. So could you expand on those bits a little bit, please?
Okay, so I will just go with the next gen senior leadership team because we are a group of, I think, 6, if I remember correctly. So I think our names were nominated from the senior leadership, like the practice director of your practice, that this person is good to get involved in. So that was a good feedback to be nominated to be part of that group. So the group is now divided into 2, the initiative divided into 2. So one, you have partnered with the practice director. So that gives you a sense of what the senior leadership or what a senior partner goes through. You can be involved in their meetings, and you guys can come together and form an initiative you're trying to deliver. And so mine, I was partnered with the railway engineering practice director, and we were working on the team agility initiative because she had the idea of imputing a resilience plan, and team agility mindset is key when you're trying to achieve a resilient plan. So we had of trying to now know how we can see it from the point of the individual, not just from the point of management trying to just mark off numbers or trying to get productivity up and out of the roof. So you gave gave the opportunity to have conversations with people and see their own perspective. And I was able to now give a presentation on that, I think it was last week, Thursday, to the entire engineering transportation group, which had at least around 200 to 300 people in the call to raise the awareness about the key things for team agility that leads to us increasing our lean out opportunities within the company. So that on one of the side was really good, because I had to see the involvement of what the senior leadership goes through, and had the opportunity to expand my network and my visibility to others around with the company, and also to senior leadership that was in the call that day. And to the other side of the initiative is where we partner with the people already within the within the next gen senior leadership team, and I'm partner with two other people which we're working on inclusive design. So it is basically creating trying to look for ways to better the inclusive design process within the company, trying to communicate still with senior leadership, trying to communicate with head technical leads and head of the professional departments to know what are the bits and bobs that are needed to, let's say, fine tune with the utilization of inclusive design. And it's quite interesting for me personally, because I'm not an engineer, or would I say designing, so I don't have any experience or any knowledge with inclusive design. So it's putting myself in that shoe to educate myself, ask questions, not being afraid to send that long email to a practice director, crossing your fingers he doesn't ignore you, and and getting the information you have. So it's just like two sides of it that is one when you put it in synergy. So that's being able to expose me to a different set of people that I probably would have spoken to if I wasn't involved in that initiative outside my day-to-day project work. And also from another side of I'm involving in campaigns for the company is also still a way of creating more visibility and being able to spread why you're really interested and in love with working with where you are. So that's just to show that's what one of the things, or one or two of the things I've been working on outside my project work.
That's brilliant. And I think a lot of things that you've said there are really, really important. And obviously, you know, something that AtkinsRéalis really look for in their candidates is, you know, it's kind of going above and beyond. It's putting yourself out there, being really willing to learn new skills. Like you said, you're not an engineer, but you're having to kind of really understand and talk to people of different disciplines and try and understand, you know, what they are telling you, and learning new skills. And it's also fantastic that so early on in your career you've been given the opportunity to get involved in something like that. So I think that gives you know lots and lots of examples to our audience about you know some of the additional opportunities that you can get at AtkinsRéalis. So that's brilliant for that overview, Isaac. Thank you. Chikume, I'm going to come over to you. I know Jamie and Isaac have kind of touched upon things outside of work. Is there anything you know about the social side of working at AtkinsRéalis that you'd like to kind of touch upon? You know, what do you do in your team? You know, are there socials? Are there things like that going on? Give us a little bit of an insight.
Yeah, sure. So being in the office, you know, gives you the opportunity to like interact with people, and also like just go for socials after work if there's any. Also we do like have like team meetings and team socials where we get together in an office. Just to point on the fact that most of us are hybrid, so we need to like kind of put in a bit of effort as a team to meet together and just have like a social together and get to know ourselves more. So we do that on a regular basis where we meet together and we have like social and just go out and have drinks and stuff and talk.
Great.
Yeah.
Lovely. And I think that's nice for our audience to hear that there is those kind of like organized team events. Obviously all three of you are in completely different teams, so I'm sure you'll all do different things. But it is nice for our audience to know, especially if they're relocating and things like that, that there is, you know, the opportunity to get together and meet people. And like you said, you are in the office and you're always going to talk to people then. And it sounds like from everything that you have all said that everyone in the office is really supportive of the graduates entering in, and will kind of give you that help and support where you need it. So that's brilliant. I think I'm going to be handing back to Carla now to talk about our future plans.
Oh, you've got no idea. Welcome to the webinar. So, so Isaac, I'm going to come back to you, because I've got a question from Joe at the University of Swansea, and Joe would like to know, what are your future plans? So I know you've spoken about the next generation scheme, the future leader scheme, but what do you want to achieve in the next couple of years?
First of all, thank you for the question, Joe from University of Swansea. Well, I like to look at things through the lens of a measurable process. So my future 5-year plan is to become a certified project information manager, which encapsulates just like being a chartered engineer within our own role. And my next steps to doing that is get as much project experience as possible, diverse projects, upskill myself with necessary relevant skills that come around, keep abreast with industry trends within my role, and also try and attend as much conferences, events around like digital construction or digital construction, but around my role. And key thing I would just say is about being curious every day. Just being curious about opportunities that are outside my day-to-day role. So at least that will keep the fire burning and the zeal to want to challenge myself to do something. That's why I'm a big fan of Nike. I think one thing is to resonate with their motto: just do it. Like just do it. Yeah. So it's basically, so I'm just doing it each day and every day, and hopefully by that 5 years time, I would have achieved being a certified project information manager, and probably then put on another challenge for the next 5 years.
Yeah, fantastic. You said just do it. We said let's crack on, don't we, sir? She knows what I'm saying. I'm going Yorkshire again. So yes, what we'd like to do now is, so do you think we've covered off about other extracurricular things? Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie. So now what we'd like to do is cover the application process. And Rachel, I'm coming back to you to discuss this. So we've mentioned that your opportunities are currently live on your hub on Gradcracker. All of the information is on the job description, whether that's unit required disciplines, locations, and everything is on there. So when a student has selected their opportunity to apply for, what are the next steps, please?
Yeah, sure. So our application process was really successful last year. We hired some amazing people, so we haven't really changed much. A few tweaks here and there, but pretty much same as it was last year. So once you've reviewed the job description, you're satisfied you've found the perfect job for you. Obviously click the apply link on the role. This takes you through to our application form, and that will ask you to complete your personal details, to confirm which role, which office you're applying to, and it'll also ask you to explain the reason for selecting this role and how it links to you, your degree, your skills and interests. We don't have any covering letter required, and we don't accept CVs, so don't spend a load of time doing that, because there's nowhere to upload it in our process at all. In terms of timescales, we always say the sooner the better, and as you mentioned, Carla, the closing dates swiftly coming round the corner for grad roles. We always say just apply as soon as you see the role that you want. We close down roles even sometimes sooner than the closing date if we've got enough candidates in our pipeline. So you really don't want to kind of wait to apply, take your time too much, and then find yourself disappointed if that role's disappeared off the hub. So do your research and all that, but do get that application in as soon as you're sure that's what you want to apply for. So once you've submitted your application, assuming you're eligible for the graduate scheme, you are then invited to complete our immersive assessment. So this is an online assessment. It takes a day in the life approach and consists of several situational judgment tests, and also numerical and verbal reasoning questions as well. And then we ask candidates to complete 3 video responses to 3 questions, which will assess your alignment to our roles and company. No part of the assessment's timed until you get to the point where you hit record on that video, and you've got 2 minutes per, I think it's 2 minutes per video to record your answer. But up until that point, nothing's timed, so you can take it at your own pace. You can kind of research and practice your answers and all that sort of thing before you get to that video response. As a guide, the whole assessment should take around 45 minutes. We say please make sure you've got good Wi-Fi, somewhere quiet without distractions, and you will need a camera on your laptop or your whatever device you're using to record your answers. So make sure you've got access to a camera as well. If at any point of the process you need reasonable adjustments, then please just contact us. We're always happy to discuss anything that we might need to do, tweak the process or whatever we need to do just to make sure that you can perform at your best. So please do contact us if that's a concern. If you're successful in the assessment, then the next stage will be shortlisting for interviews. So the recruiters will assess candidates against the role, will take into account how you've performed in the assessment, but also ensure that you've got the right educational qualifications for the role as well. Candidates who have passed the shortlisting stage will then be contacted via email to inform them of next steps and how you would then book onto an interview. And we just have a one interview process. So there's no kind of calling you back for a second stage or HR assessment or anything like that. It's kind of one business interview and then we make a decision. If you're not successful in securing an interview, then you can download a feedback report as well. So that's quite a nice report which looks at your performance in the assessment, areas you did well, and also make suggestions of what you could do to improve as well. So hopefully you're all successful, but if not, you will get some help maybe to help you with a further application further down the line.
Yeah, it's really good that AtkinsRéalis offer that as well, because even if you haven't been successful, which obviously we hope that you are, it gives you some hints and tips, personal hints and tips
Absolutely,
about how
yeah.
you can improve in the future. And I know that's something that AtkinsRéalis is really proud of. And obviously you signed the feedback pledge on Gradcracker as well, which ensures that you do give that feedback, which is brilliant. And then Rachel, you've talking before, you have looked at many applications over the years. What hints and tips would you give to how a student can be successful?
Yeah, so I'd say really first and foremost, and we touched on it earlier as well, is just read the job description really thoroughly. Obviously you can only apply for one role, so you really want to make sure that you've got a good understanding of the business area and the role that you're applying to. We love seeing candidates who have really thought about their application, they've researched the business area, ideally research the company as well, and we touched on the values as well earlier. I think Jamie mentioned, if you can demonstrate that our company values align with your own personal values, then that makes a really strong application for us. It shows you've gone the extra mile as well, and that you've really put some thought and time into your application. Read the application form really thoroughly, read the questions thoroughly as well, and make sure that you're answering everything accurately. If you make mistakes, it can obviously affect your application. It can cause delays if we have to reach back out to you to ask you to clarify something, or some questions might mean that you don't progress in the process, but actually if you've answered it incorrectly, you could be sort of hindering your own kind of application. So make sure you're reading it all thoroughly and you're sort of happy with the information you're giving us. When it comes to the immersive assessment, I'd say prepare your video answers before you hit record, because you've got just that limited then time to record your answer. And once you start recording, there's no kind of pausing or stopping, restarting. You can't kind of, no do-overs. So, you sort of maybe spend some time running through your answers before you hit record, just to make sure you're happy with all the information you'd like to give us. Another point, just be careful using generative AI. We'd always say it's fine to use it when you prepare. That's absolutely fine. But once you get to recording your video assessment answers, or obviously in interviews, we are very aware of candidates using it. One of our values is integrity. So we ask candidates to kind of demonstrate your own personal integrity by not using those tools definitely not during interviews. It's really obvious when you're using it, and it's not going to go in your favour. So I just say, be really mindful. I know it's tempting, and those tools can be really helpful, but yeah, not during those video elements of the process.
And I think during the video elements as well, it's good to practice actually talking to yourself. And I know that sounds really stupid, but it is a completely different atmosphere, isn't it? And surrounding.
Yeah, it's quite strange.
Yeah.
And I would say as well with that, we're really assessing the content of what you're giving us. So if you're nervous, obviously I'd say no, being in an area with no distractions, but some things are out of your control. So I had somebody's video I was looking at a couple of years ago, and she was in she'd got a quiet room in her college. She'd put a sign on the door saying, "Please do not disturb," and a cleaner still walked in halfway through wanting to vacuum the room, and it threw her. And I just thought, we're not obviously not going to mark you down on that. That's out of your control. We're really just interested in your content, so don't worry if you're nervous. We're not looking at what you're wearing. We're not looking at whether you've got posters in the background or anything like that. It's what you're saying. So I'd say make sure you really kind of work on that, sort of hone that content before you hit record.
Yeah, and some nerves are good, it shows that you care, it shows that
Absolutely, yeah.
you really want to do well. Me and Sophie have done these webinars now for 5 years and we still get a bit nervous, don't we, Soph?
We do.
So it's normal, everybody who's watching. And you also, Rachel, want to mention about as a business at AtkinsRéalis, look at the potential of the future potential of placement students and graduates as well. So it's not necessarily about the experience that you've got previously.
Absolutely, yeah.
What you can bring to AtkinsRéalis in the future. So how would you say a student can showcase what they can bring to the company moving forward?
Yeah, so one of the things we have tweaked in our process this cycle is rather than interview questions focusing on previous experience, so it's not tell me about a time when you did X. We're now looking at tell me what you might do if you were faced with X scenarios. So we really want to kind of give the best opportunity to candidates who might not have had the opportunity to do work experience or experience previous similar situations in their life. So I'd say kind of draw on maybe university projects is always good, or school or that sort of thing, because everybody who applies to a graduate scheme will have had an educational background, so they'll have hopefully examples. But really try and think about putting yourself in that position and thinking about what you might do if you were faced with that situation in a work environment, and putting those two together. Hopefully you should sort of feel confident in answering the questions.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Rachel. I know you mentioned previously in the prep sessions that we've done about being passionate about the projects, researching the projects that AtkinsRéalis has been part of. And Jamie, I know you mentioned a couple of projects previously when you were telling us all about what you've been up to so far. But I also just want to kind of refer back to the AtkinsRéalis hub on Gradcracker as well. So there is an inspiring projects page on there which details things that AtkinsRéalis has done with Heathrow, Dubai, Crossrail, and also Hinkley Point C, which I think Jamie mentioned as well. So the information is there for you to access, students who are watching, to make sure that you can show Rachel and Rachel's team that you have thoroughly done your research and you do really want to be part of these inspiring projects moving forward. Thank you very much for that insight, Rachel. It's been really interesting. And now what we're going to do now is just loop back to the grads. So Jamie, I'm going to come to you. So you've mentioned quite a few times about using Gradcracker to put your application in to AtkinsRéalis, but can you talk a little bit more about your experiences with how you put your initial application together, and also talk me through how you use Gradcracker to prepare your application?
Yeah, of course. I do want to start actually just by emphasising the point that Rachel made about having your applications in early. Part of my process of using Gradcracker and getting my applications in was to try and do so at the nearest available date I could. I think that it sets a good precedent going forward. And I think regardless of the result, like Rachel said, I think it's a good mindset to get into, and I think you'll find it'll take you a long way when you do find yourself in your job. So yeah, during my application process, I used Gradcracker mainly to identify what civil engineering opportunities were available to me, and whether or not they suited my interest and my career goals. So originally it started with, filtering to find what locations am I wanting to, start my career in, and more importantly, what subject I'm wanting to go into. So I filtered for relevant roles, explored various positions available, and to better understand the industry and its disciplines, I researched the current projects, like you mentioned, which is available through Gradcracker, and I read about the different areas of work. So another big part of it, I think, is reviewing the company values, as we've touched on, to ensure that they align with your own. And as well as that, I carefully studied the role descriptions, including sections on what the role entails, what you can bring, training and development opportunities, and the requirements for the role that you're applying for. And I think mainly for me, it was using this information so I could tailor both my CV and my cover letter and provide evidence of how I'm meeting these role requirements and how my values align with those business. I repeated this process for each job application, regardless of how tempting it may to use a similar template for each application. I think that tailoring your application forms to each specific role is most definitely the most effective method. And Gradcracker provides you with all the information you need to achieve this. Something that Rachel touched on, which I found very effective for me, was to not only just go through each of the requirements, but really think about how you can provide evidence and show that you're the person the company is looking for. You can fit these requirements. And a really great point that I think was mentioned was that in some cases you may find a piece of evidence that you think, maybe you've not done something to cover that, maybe you haven't satisfied this requirement in your head. And in a case like that, I think you'll find that through personal experiences or through experiences in you'll have something that can demonstrate your ability to satisfy this requirement. And a great example for me would be that a lot of the companies, they like to mention about summer placements, work experience prior. And I was able to refer back to my project, my 5th year project, which involved me working with senior engineers, people that have been in the industry. And I used that as an example, a way to show that, despite the not mentioning that I hadn't done summer placement, but that I understand what it takes to be in the industry, I understand how the process works, I have insight into the type of things I'm expected of in the job, and I'm able to collaborate and be innovative with people that are already in that industry. And I think, for me, the most important thing and the greatest thing about Gradcracker is it lays out all this information for you. If you have a company in mind, you can filter for them. If you have a sector in mind, you can also filter for that. And through Gradcracker, you will have listed for you in a very clear way exactly what the role requires, what you can get out of it, and the opportunities that will be available to you throughout it. And I think the most important thing is getting to it early, getting your application started, having a cover letter so you can demonstrate your interest in the industry. I think, as Rachel mentioned, it's important to show that you're interested in the work that's been done, you're aware of the work that's been done, and you're aware of the values the company has, because they are some of the most important things. And I also think one of the most important things with the application process is to be honest with yourself. People hiring are wanting people that they want to work with. That's one of the most important things. And as much as it may seem like you have to be a professional corporate personality, it's not the case. They want to see someone with personality, they want to see someone with enthusiasm, and they want to see someone that's likable and that's going to be willing to demonstrate that enthusiasm with people within the company. And to conclude that, I think my main process was to use Gradcracker and to provide evidence for each of these requirements and tailor my CV and my cover letter to basically demonstrate that I suit this job description and that it's the right role for me.
I could just listen to you all day. Thank you very much for that, Jamie. What you can do on Gradcracker is, obviously, if a student wants to register, you can register, save the jobs to your shortlist as well. And this is when you can compare job descriptions, and the job description would be there for you to refer back to when you go through the whole application process. And Rachel was nodding away there at everything that Jamie was saying. And you were like, yes, that's my boy. So definitely take on board what Jamie said and Rachel said. Lots and lots of fantastic hints and tips there. And Isaac, I'm going to come to you now, my love. So now I want to talk a little bit about the interview stage, if I can. So Isaac, so Jamie said about the application stage, interview stage. So how did you feel? Were you a little bit nervous? How did you prepare? Any hints and tips that you'd like to give to the students?
Thank you, Carla. And just to touch to what Jamie and Rachel said, the way, first of all, how I felt awake. Because I felt awake because I woke up from an afternoon nap, and I went through my email and I saw it, and my eyes just lit up. And so first of all, I felt awake, I felt curious, then an anxious feeling started to set in. And I think I'm going to come from another angle because Jamie and Rachel has already spoken on key things which leads you down to this interview stage, which is research on the values, research on the company, their projects. Now, where I said, once you get to the interview, you're talking with people. So you get to try and convince 2 or 3 people within the interview stage. So once I got the interview mail, the first thing I would advise anyone is be curious. So I was curious. Once I got the interview mail, I saw the names of the people that's going to be interviewing me. I ran to LinkedIn. And looked through the page, the profile of the people that are going to be interviewing me,
Yeah.
because the company, the researching the company and values will make you really zone into the holistic of what the company is in about. But having an understanding of the people within the role you're trying to get into will give you the awareness of key things you need to be aware of that's going to help you in your day to day. So I saw some things I would advise to. So when you research the people even before you get the
Yeah.
interview stage. You're trying to go into the what I say data analytics department or ground engineering. What are some of the people you can see on LinkedIn that are within those teams? Look at their certifications. What have they done? So you can see for them to have gotten the certifications is quite relevant to the
Mhm.
role. And I used that and I picked up something like the ISO 19650, and know which is a key UK BIM framework that we're using to work with information management. And having those informations and having those seeing those certifications and projects they've worked on gave me an idea of some key things that are very integral to the role. And once I started the interview and they started talking and they mentioned that same framework, I was like, okay, that's something. And once I started talking about it and I mentioned it, it sparked their curiosity that, okay, how did I get to know that? And also it gave me the chance to connect to the people that are on the interview stage. So I would say it's very key to also, once you're done with the company values, what the company is about, what makes company works, people.
Yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Key your interest in the kind of people within the department. If you can connect with any of them in LinkedIn, connect with them in LinkedIn and be free curious to ask questions. What they are privileged to tell you, they will tell you. What if they are not going to respond? They have an open profile. If they are separate connections, look through their profile, look at what stands out, and use that to also build up things you want to work on, research on things to work on. I think that gives you a guided notion on some things you have to give key information on. And once you start the interview stage and you immediately hear where they speak on some of the things that are key to the role you're coming into, I can guarantee you it's going to spark your interest and you're going to be like, okay, I'm on the right track. I've heard this before, I've seen this before, so that means I need to know more of this. And them already seeing that you have an idea, they don't need you to know it, but
Yeah.
you have an
Mhm.
idea about it. As Jamie and Rachel said, it shows that you're interested, you're eager, you're ready to join and get started once you're in. So yes, that's what one key tip I would say worked for me is be interested and curious about the people.
Yeah. And be awake, Isaac, and be awake.
Be a worker.
Have a good nap. I
Have a good nap.
can see that splattered all over the webinar page. Isaac's top tip, be awake.
Be awake.
Thank you very much for that, Isaac. Fantastic.
It's my
I know
pleasure.
I'm just going to come to Chukwuemeka really, really quickly just to talk about your first week. How did you prepare and what was your first week like?
Thanks for the question. So prior to my first week, I had like a meeting with my line manager and also like an early careers manager from AtkinsRéalis that kind of took me through what to expect on my first day, which was really important, and some key information that I will be needing on my first day as well. So on my first day, I had to go into the office. My base office was London, but I lived in Manchester. So one thing to note that if your base office is away from where you live, you need to plan your travel for your first day. So I had to plan my travel, go into London, get all my equipment, like my laptop, my bag, and everything I needed. Also met my land manager as well. I met my buddy as well on my first day. So I'm assuming that you might not know about the buddy scheme, but basically before joining, each graduate is paired with a buddy for them to like ask questions if they need help with anything and just like guide them through their first few weeks or months in AtkinsRéalis. So I met my line manager, I also met my buddy on my first day. I also had like my first one-to-one with my line manager that day, which was really cool and really important for me to like connect with my line manager as well. So after that, I had to kind of prep my school certificates for my line manager to kind of sign off on. So that's something to be aware of, that you need your school certificates like not prior to joining, but first few weeks you need to do that. And also I used my first few weeks to connect with other members of my team. So I had to schedule in like meetings, like 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes calls with them to just meet them, get to know the team as a whole, familiarize myself with them, and just, yeah. I also had to do some of my mandatory courses. So stuff like cybersecurity or anything like that. I did that in my first few weeks before like getting into a client work. And I just want to say that it's really important to kind of get those, sorted before you go onto client work so that they don't interrupt you when you're in client work. Also, before client work began, my first few weeks, I touched up on some Python because I think prior to joining, I hadn't like written any code in like a few months. So it was really important for me to touch up on some skills that I needed to, be successful and just like have a smooth sailing. So yeah, that was my, I think, first few weeks.
Fantastic. Sounds absolutely amazing. Thank you, Chukwuemeka, for that insight for your first couple of weeks at AtkinsRéalis, and thank you everybody for taking part in this webinar. It's been absolutely amazing. Another good one, so well done. We will put this recording of the webinar on the AtkinsRéalis Hub at some point this afternoon or maybe tomorrow morning, and we'll also break the webinar down into bite-sized chunks as well, so you can go and have a look at that after we've made it live. Remember to mention that you've watched this webinar as part of your application. It's something that Rachel and her team want to hear more about. And good luck. Fingers crossed we'll be having a webinar with you guys who are applying today, tomorrow, next year, and we'll hear all about your journey so far. So it's a wrap for me for this year. I've always wanted to say that. That's a wrap for me this year. Sorry, that's a bit old-fashioned, isn't it? But Sophie and Jessica will be back with MathWorks on Thursday, so next Thursday at 2 o'clock. So join them then. And for now, everybody, thank you very much for joining us, and we shall see you all again soon. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.